Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me in the Locher Room. I'm Alan Locher. William Keck is here to tell us all about his new book, When You Step Upon a Star, Cringeworthy Confessions of a Tabloid Bad Boy. The book is out tomorrow, July 11th. William began his career working for TV titan Aaron Spelling and as an NBC and CBS studio page before turning his focus to journalism and television production. He has worked as a staff reporter for the National Enquirer and USA Today, a senior editor and columnist for TV Guide, a regular contributor to People, Us Weekly, Closer Weekly, Entertainment Weekly, and we can't forget Soap Opera Digest. In the book, William draws from his 3 decades working as an entertainment reporter. He confesses all about his most memorable celebrity encounters that, for one reason or another, went horribly wrong. Far more than a shocking admission of past sins, the book chronicles the repentant author's own evolution from a lonely only child obsessed with Hollywood stars to an eager tabloid snoop keeping personal secrets of his own, to a well-respected journalist who ultimately learns from his mistakes, changes his wicked ways, and befriends the celebrities he'd once wronged. Please help me welcome to the Locher Room for the first time, William Keck.
Hi, hey, William. Alan, you're my new best friend. We spoke 5 minutes before we started. We have so much in common. I'm so excited to talk to you and grateful for having me on. I love your show.
I'm so excited, and I'm thoroughly enjoying every word of the book. I, like you, fell in love with TV at an early age, so I relate to your love of so many of the stars you mentioned and have met in your book.
We had the same idols, it sounds like.
We did. The book comes out tomorrow. Is it true you always knew you'd write a book dating back to those National Enquirer days?
Oh, I mean, absolutely, Alan. I kept everything. I kept every notebook with license plates I copied outside of Elizabeth Taylor's house, hospital room numbers, phone numbers. I called some of them. I mean, a lot of these stars are dead now, so I was calling Andy Griffith's phone number to make sure, Opie didn't pick up the phone. I saved everything, but during COVID, I realized it was time to just unload. So I sat down in my garage with all the recorded interviews, the clippings, every clipping I'd done for Soap Opera Digest, Entertainment Weekly, saved everything. And then I kind of got rid of some stuff. And then the stuff that was the juiciest, I'm like, this is the book. This is the one I want to tell.
It's funny. I credit this woman, and I've shared this with so many other people. Lisa Halliday, who I worked with at Disney, always told me to take notes so people, in PR, because I could keep track of everything I did. And I had many of them for many years. Did somebody recommend you hold on to them, or was that just something you thought yourself, I should keep these and they may come in handy?
I think there was always a little hoarder in me. I was like I was obsessed with death. My dad died when I was 5, and I was obsessed with death. I was like a little Wednesday Addams. So kids were collecting baseball cards. I was collecting celebrity obituaries. So I would clip them out and put them on construction paper. I had a whole celebrity obituary diary. And I would be the weird kid at the bus stop who would say, hey, remember Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched? Well, she just died of cancer. And they'd all look at me. And so I was very obsessed with the macabre. So that it was in my blood to save everything. I'm a pack rat. Now I'm just trying to eBay everything. Well, buy my stuff, please.
Living in a house, you have the room for that, thankfully.
Yes.
Try being a pack rat when you live in New York City in the small apartments. I had to get rid of a lot.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. Yeah, we want to downsize and reboot.
I think I know that you went to therapy, over the years.
Yes, thank God.
Interesting, losing your dad so early. Was that being fascinated with death? Did you learn that came from that loss?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. There's a whole section in the book on death and dying. It's called
I know the dead. Death and dying. Yeah,
right. Disturbing the dead and near dead. That was the hospital room encounters. But yeah, my family decided to make the decision to not let me. My mother made this to not let me go to the funeral. So I never saw my dad, laid out in the caskets, and in the mind of a 5-year-old who's watching soap operas where people come back from the dead. I remember when Mrs. Chancellor came back from the dead on Young and the Restless. That was the coolest thing ever. Went to her own funeral. In my little mind, I'm like, maybe Dad's alive somewhere. Or maybe he's going to come back. My mom didn't want me to touch any of his things. It was his cabinet was a sacred place. And I'm like, she's saving it for when he comes back. So yeah, it did do a number on me. And what I did was I ended up adopting surrogate TV dads, and they were all the hot ones. So, I mean, it was Charles Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie. And the one for me really was Mike Brady. I mean, Robert Reed just seemed like the total masculine, heterosexual dad role model. And then, we found out that he had another side, just like I did, just like my dad did. My dad was positive. Like
I know, which is, fascinating. But that is so interesting about the soaps and a kid being exposed to that. I mean, you're right. I mean, you don't know how to process what happened to you. It's just really, and people grieve in such different ways that taking that. So tell me, you're on the eve of the book coming out. How are you feeling?
It's really exciting. We had the book launch event last night at Barnes & Noble at the Grove.
I saw the picture you posted. My God, you had an incredible turnout. Tell everybody.
We sold out in our books. I'm sorry, Alan? What did you want me to
tell everybody? Mark Steinis hosted, right?
Oh, yeah, Mark Steinis from Entertainment Tonight. I spent 7 years producing Home and Family, which is a show that he hosted on the Hallmark Channel. Mark and I remain buds. He did such a great job. I mean, it was such an honor to have him there. We had a lot of fun, and sold a lot of books, told a lot of scandalous stories. And I'd be telling these stories, and I would see the audience laughing, and then they would look at me like, how horrible this person did these things. I'm like, that's exactly what I was hoping for. It's a roller coaster.
I bet. Yeah. You've been a reporter and writer for over 30 years. What was the process like, detailing so much of your own personal, it's different when you're writing about Nicole Brown Simpson and the Bradys and all of that. But, when it's yourself, it's got to take on a different meaning.
Yeah. And that's where I give credit to my publisher, because they love the anecdotes. They loved all the celebrity stories, but they said to really make it a book, it should be my journey. They said, you're the main character of the story. We want to follow you through your growth. And it really ended up making sense. I was at the Enquirer in the 90s, snooping into celebrities' private lives, but yet keeping my own life a total secret, that I was in the closet. I was pretending to date girls. And I think snooping into other people's lives took the focus off of me. And ultimately, the person I came out to, Alan, you'll appreciate this, totally by chance. We were in a seminar. I was already starting to feel antsy at the Enquirer. So I enrolled in something called the Landmark Forum. And one of the other participants was Judith Light. So this was sort of a problem, because I was still with the Enquirer. Judith was Judith Light. And we were in the seminar to kind of expose our innermost secrets. So we had a talk. And we decided to go with it, to trust each other, to not hold anything back. We bonded. And by the end of that seminar, I came out to Judith Light. She was the very first person that I came out to.
Couldn't be a better person. I just interviewed Danny Pintura last week, and, he talked about her, being so supportive.
Yeah. Alan, I tried to get in touch with Danny. There was a Danny Pintura chapter in my book that I was advised to take out at the last minute. But I would love to connect with him and share with him.
I will definitely.
Yeah. I so admire him, and our paths did cross one night at the GLAAD Awards. We had a lot of fun. So tell Danny hello, and I'd love to reconnect.
Yeah, I've admired him as well, and my husband and I are watching Who's the Boss on Hulu when it was released in December. We go to bed every night with a episode of Who's the Boss right now, going through 8 seasons. And it's just the perfect thing to take your mind off the crazy, SHIT in the world.
Oh my God, totally.
Just to laugh.
Do you think when they announced that Tony Danza was going to come back with a new version?
Yeah, I don't think they found the right script yet or something, but I think
I'd check it out. I think your Fuller House did pretty well, right?
I was I was a big fan of Fuller House. Big nerd. I was a big fan. I thought they did a great job with that.
They did. One of the weddings I crashed back in the day was Candace Cameron's wedding. So when she ended up coming on as the Queen of Christmas to Hallmark, I didn't remind her of that part of my past.
That's funny. Yeah, she's an interesting one, that's for sure. I love what you said in the preface. I'm owning up to my most grievous lapses in judgment, confessing my most mortifying blunders, revealing the embarrassing sex stuff, and also taking the opportunity to share a few valuable insights I gained along the way.
Yeah.
39 chapters. You share a lesson learned. Why was that important for you to share a lesson learned at the end of each?
Well, I dedicate the book to my former National Enquirer bureau chief in Los Angeles, a man named Jerry George, who very sadly died just a few years ago, so I never got to hand him the book. But he taught me so many lessons, and I put a few in that dedication. Choose your battles. Be true to yourself. Remember they're not your friends in some of the interviews. That was a good lesson to have. And I realized that there were so many other lessons throughout the book that it just sort of, I don't know, it made sense to have a cherry on the Sunday of each chapter with one of these lessons learned. And I think that they're relatable. I think people can relate to these things. And kind of the overall lesson is just because you were somebody in your past doesn't mean that defines you. That's not who you need to be in the future. You can change. Julie Newmar contributes a quote. I have lovely quotes in the front of the book from Donna Mills and Joan Van Ark and Morgan Fairchild.
So many great people.
And you know these people. You know them. But Julie Newmar said, it's nice to see a leopard can change its spots.
God. Do you have a favorite lesson that shared, or a lesson that you truly have taken to heart from the moment you learned it, maybe from Jerry or someone else?
Why don't I just open to a random one? Let me see. Let me see what the first one I come to. Hopefully it's a good one. But and one that makes sense to the readers. Well, here's one. I mean, this was in my Jethro chapter. I had to do an investigation into Max Baer Jr.'s. There were allegations that he had raped a porn actress. It's a very dirty section. You haven't gotten to this section yet.
I have not. But I'll like that section.
You'll love it. Oh, it's great. So. Oh, wait a minute. I lied. This is my Zsa Zsa Gabor section. This is my Zsa Zsa Gabor chapter. So the lesson learned here was some charming princes may be more trouble than they're worth, or merely frogs in disguise who just got damn lucky. So Zsa Zsa was married to that prince, Prince Frederick von Anhalt. Do you remember that? And she became Princess Zsa Zsa, and they were on the Hollywood Square. She was all dressed as a queen. I don't remember any of this. It was like a soap opera plot.
I remember when she was on that all the time.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, she became Princess Zsa Zsa. That's how they identified her. But her husband was one of my sources. Prince Frederick was always calling in stories about Zsa Zsa. I mean, one of the best stories, he got booted out of the Bally's Total Health Fitness because the women were complaining that they could see through his white Speedo, that they could see, as he said, his manhood. So he quit. So he was going after Bally's. And so I had an idea. I said, what if we take you to the pool of the Beverly Hilton Hotel and we do a before and after picture, dry and then wet, and we'll leave it up to the readers to see if they can see enough of the VPL to make him worthy of being given the boot. And he said, yes, that sounds great. I'll do it. He was up for anything. Frederick was a lot of fun.
I love that. I mean,
Zsa Zsa hated it. Zsa Zsa was mortified by these stories. She would bring me home and she's like, oh, darling, why is he here again? Enquirer, no. Let's call Entertainment Tonight.
The stories in your head, I mean, overflowing. You call yourself a repentant man today. Yeah. Is there something that, or not something, was there a moment that you truly felt you had gone too far? Like, I mean, I know there's many things, the John Candy I just got to, glad that didn't happen, and let the readers read why, because I think that's a great lesson even right there with the John Candy of not wanting to grab that picture for the reason that you didn't.
Oh yeah, no, Alan. What? Yeah, when John Candy passed away, I was sent to his service, his memorial, and instead of a nice obituary, they really wanted a picture of his giant casket because he was a very large man, very exploitative thing. I ended up not getting that photo. I ended up getting escorted out of a mausoleum as Dan Aykroyd and Rhea Perlman and Danny DeVito are watching me walk away in shame. So my gosh, there are so many things that I regret that I just felt like a total, you know what? Yeah, there's tons of them. And we mentioned our fan Lindsay Wagner, and having to talk to her at her dad's funeral, and I said, we got a photo of you and your boyfriend in the bushes to see the photographer, and he waved and they looked, and she said, all right, well, you got a photo. What do you want? And so. Yeah, I mean, it's I tell you these stories. I've told you these stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I love the word confessions because it is, an opportunity to do right, which you do. You make amends with so many of the people that you stepped on, for lack of a better word, right now.
Well, that's it. I did. I stepped on and stepped in.
Yeah, and I mean, you share so many incredible stories in the book, from landing the first interview with Nicole Brown Simpson's grieving family days after the murder, infiltrating weddings, funerals, hospital rooms to land the scoops, engaging in dangerous high-speed pursuits of Brittany and Elizabeth Taylor, uncovering dirty laundry of the Desperate Housewives. Thinking about all of the confessions you make in the book, have you thought about which of the confessions are going to get the biggest reaction when the people get the book tomorrow and they start reading?
Well, it would have been Danny Pinturo, that chapter I made.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you who told me to take that out. Mark Cherry. Mark Cherry. Huh? The creator of Housewives. Mark Cherry is a friend. He wrote a nice essay in the book about me terrorizing Wisteria Lane. As did Marsha Cross. She also contributed a lovely sidebar in the book, an essay. I think probably. Oh yeah. So anyway, Mark said, I love this story about Danny Ventura, but you can't. You got to take it out. It plays better as a verbal story. But yeah, I mean, the Desperate Housewives was a playground for me. I loved Dallas and Dynasty, and this was the first show like that in a long time. So I just infiltrated that world. I was the reporter granted more on-set access than any other. I saw a lot of things. I mean, my first encounter on the set, I was observing a scene with Eva Longoria and Terry, and they were having to scream at each other, Gabby and Susan. And after they yelled cut, they said, oh gosh, we hate doing this. I mean, we're just like sisters and we love each other. So cut to 8 years later, when I'm there for the filming of the final episode, and I'm watching one of the final scenes with Gabrielle and Lynette and Susan and Bree, and they're all just kind of coming together. And I'm like, oh my God, this looks so nice. So the director yells cut, and Terry walks off to her character's yard. The other three walk over to Gabby's front yard, and they're not interacting. And it had been that way for over a year or two on that set. They just weren't speaking. I kept this secret for a long time. I think people kind of knew. They'd heard there was a lot of toxicity on that set. And for the final Desperate Housewives interview, I chose to reveal all that dirty laundry. And
as a fan, isn't it disheartening sometimes to learn these things? It truly.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, totally. I mean, so many stories. I mean, I love the show Castle, and those two hated each other. Stana Katic and Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion, I remember him as Joey on One Life to Live.
One Life to Live, yeah.
Loved them both, but they just did not click for whatever reason.
And isn't that fascinating? How many superstar on-screen couples detest each other? Sadly.
Oh my gosh. I mean, absolutely. It's so true. And I guess that's
Yeah.
part of the chemistry, maybe, you know, that they want to rip each other apart. But I guess the classic one was Richard Gere and Deborah Winger, right? I mean, they just, I
Right.
guess,
Yeah.
really
Yeah. Yeah.
wanted to rip each other's necks out. And the result was this steamy, amazing chemistry. It's hard to explain where it comes from. I mean,
And
who
it's
else?
interesting. I think some people that does happen to, but then as they age gracefully and go through life, they sometimes come back together as friends and realize,
Yes.
so I mean, no matter what show you're on, from daytime to prime time, the pressure of being a hot couple like that can be taxing, I think, on the actors.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I guess so. I mean, I think one of the couples that we remember kind of clashing, there was so much turmoil behind the scenes, was Moonlighting, Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd.
Oh
And,
God,
and
yes.
that was notorious. I remember in the TV guide, it would talk about the new episode, and then it wouldn't air because they hadn't finished shooting it yet, because there was just so many problems on set. But speaking of them, one of the celebrities who threatened me was Bruce Willis. Oh, you'll love this because it's kind of soap related. So I was a movie premiere, and Bruce brought as his date Nadia Bjorlin. So
Oh
from
yeah,
Days
yeah,
of Our
yeah,
Lives, yes.
yeah, yeah.
So she was in her 20s, and he was, gosh, I guess probably around 50 or so. So May, December, Nadia looked incredible. She walked out of her limo. She had this tan, this red dress, and boobs were just perfect. And so at the after party, I said to Bruce, I said, hey, you know, I talked to Nadia, and she's great on Days of Our Lives. I remember that, you know, Demi Moore, your wife, was on General Hospital as Jackie Templeton. I implied, are you looking at the daytime soaps to select your next girl? And he did not appreciate that. And I think more than the dating aspect, I think he just didn't want people to think that this big, tough John McClane was watching soap operas like so many of us do. So Bruce said, if you print that, I'm going to burn your house down. And I laughed. And he said, no, I'm serious. If you put that in, I'm going to find out where you live. I'm going to burn it down, and you'll have no place to live. So the reason I'm telling this is because I sent these chapters out. Bruce Willis sadly is not in a place to respond, but Sybil did. Sybil wrote a page in my book where she defended Bruce and said, you know, he was kidding. He had a marvelous sense of humor. I really don't think he was actually going to burn your house down. Maybe I did get some extra fire insurance and extinguishers just in case.
Were there moments of fear for you along the way in those early days before you became a much more respected journalist? Did you fear for your safety at home or any of that?
Oh, at home? No. I mean, I do remember after Princess Diana passed away, and George Clooney was sort of leading the charge against the paparazzi and the tabloids, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah.
I was wondering, you know, the people I worked with, we had our own secrets. You know, I had my secrets I talked about, but all the reporters did, and the celebrities had so much money and ties with security. I was like, why don't they actually send a team out to investigate our lives, to get our dirty laundry? That certainly would have shut us all up. That would have been something interesting to turn.
Right. I mean, something you're trying to keep secret for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, right. Being outed yourself wouldn't have been enjoyable when you weren't ready for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I planted that idea.
You planted it long after you have to worry about it, so that's good.
With that secret, you know, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there could be others, right?
Well, no, that was the biggie. That was the biggie.
Oh yeah, it is. I love in the book that you shared, or in advance of the book, really, you shared chapters with the celebrities, like you were thinking of sending to Danny. Why was that so important? And tell us about some of the essays you got. I love the one from Peter Brady, Christopher Knight.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to do Chris and Barry Williams' podcast tomorrow. I mean, Locher Room is the best one. Brady Bros is second below Locher Room.
That's incredible. I love all these people, you know, like the Melrose gals getting together for the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I sort of love, you know, that they're all coming to talk about the show. I wish it had been when I watched for most of them.
Well, they would never do that. They would never do
Right.
that. I mean, I tell you, one of the things that I started out before the Enquirer working for Aaron Spelling Productions, and I worked on the very first season of Melrose Place. The show was a dud. It was going to be canceled. And a fax came over. It's my last day. And I looked at the fax, and it said that Heather Locklear had been signed as a special guest star for 6 episodes. And I'm like, that might help. That could help the show. You know, had I known, I would have stuck around. I would have stayed at Melrose Place for a while longer, because it became what we know it as. And she never stopped being that special guest star. That was always
she really did take it to new heights.
But back to your question, I with the ladies of Melrose, I mean, I write about when I first joined the Enquirer, I was desperate for sources. I had no sources. So I was passing just cards out left and right. And I made mistakes. I actually went back to my spelling offices, and I passed out some business cards to some of the employees in the mailroom who weren't making a lot of money. And I made a mistake. I gave a card to this guy named Bo, who was this kind of jittery, nervous guy. And he had come back to the office one day. He had delivered a script to one of the Melrose actors, I won't say. And he saw that actor, as he claimed, in his backyard, receiving oral fun from another man. And we knew this guy only as straight. So he was a mess. Oh my God, I think he was maybe a little homophobic. Oh, it was awful. Da da da. And I'm like, I'll do the next delivery to his house. I'm happy to do that. But yeah, so I mean, there's all sorts of little like teases in there too of things. But usually I name names. I name names throughout the book. The only chapter where I can't is near the end, and it's a chapter about a 90s. He wasn't in his 90s, from the 1990s, a sitcom star that beat the heck out of me. He punched me, and I was bleeding, had to go to the hospital, and I can't say his name. So
while you were at the National Enquirer?
While I was at the National Enquirer,
Wow.
Yeah, I had to go to his home. There apparently had been another tabloid person there before me, snooping around, so he was already on guard. It was a very sensitive subject about photos implying an affair, and yeah, he went ape. You know what?
Was that the only time you were physically attacked?
Yes, I was groped by an actor I loved, and I identify that in the book because he's dead. But so I'm sure. Did you love the show Soap?
Of course.
Oh my God, I loved Soap. Who were your favorite characters on Soap?
You know, I don't fully. I mean, I love Katherine Hellman, and that's probably where I fell in love with Katherine Hellman before Who's the Boss.
Yeah.
Billy Crystal, of course. The mother. Who am I thinking?
Catherine Damon, or
is that her name? I was going to say Catherine.
Jessica's sister. This is a story of 2 sisters, Jessica Tate and Mary Tate.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't fully. I wish that was available somewhere, because I don't fully remember. You know, people always ask, sort of, when I knew I was gay. I had sexual experiences in high school, but because I grew up in the 80s and late 70s, 80s, there was nothing on television that was relatable to understand. I knew there was a gay character on Soap. That's as much as I knew, but there was nothing to articulate what, there was no Glee, which I find Glee to be like the, second coming because of what it was able to do for young kids.
Totally, I agree.
But during that time, but I do remember it. It was, I was probably too young, and it was on, like you said, about your mom letting you stay up. Like, that was, I think, a 10 o'clock show, right?
It had to have been. It had to, right? And also, the Moral Majority canceled the show. It was doing well. It ended with a cliffhanger where Katherine Hellman was shot, and then they ended up having her appear on Benson, the spin-off show, as a ghost. So we knew that.
I must have been. I wonder what year. Do you know what year that went off?
Yeah, that was 1977 through 81. It ended in 1981. Yep. So then when that ended, Dynasty started. And then we were introduced to Stephen Carrington, who was a huge, huge influence on me. The Stephen Carrington. Were you a Dynasty?
Yeah, Stephen, of course. Stephen Carrington, huge. Yes. But that was definitely much later in the 80s.
Oh, sure. I've had a chance.
There was so much angst about that kiss.
Oh, well, they never showed the Dynasty kiss. They never did. Maybe in the reunion miniseries, but no, they would always sort of just cut away right before. There wasn't
a kiss on there. There was a kiss on Melrose.
The kiss that you're thinking of is the Matt Fielding, Doug Savant gay kiss.
Yeah, there was
and that. Was a huge build up, and it turned out to be a lot of excitement about nothing.
But I totally, Soap. I have visuals in my head of the show, but I don't remember. I see everybody and I know, but I don't remember story really.
Well, maybe I'll leave that as a tease, to sell.
Yeah, definitely. And the other,
some male character on the cast of Soap grabbed me inappropriately and shocked me when I was a twink. Long time ago.
When you're not expecting.
Oh my God! Reached down and I actually got Diana Canova, who was one of this person's co-stars from Soap. She writes an essay about what her reaction was and what she thinks that might have been about.
Wow.
It was, actually, I'll tell you, she said it was locker room behavior.
Exactly.
Have you ever been accused of locker room behavior, Alan?
Yeah, people, always say, they search the locker room and what they find isn't my locker room.
Yeah, right. No, yeah.
Because
well, this is the cleanest locker
differently.
room I've ever been. The cleanest locker room I've ever been in.
Love it. Yeah, exactly. But I would love to. Somebody just said Soap is available on Tubi. I should check it out if it is.
For sure. I mean, I'm old school. I have the whole DVD set and the special edition that B. Arthur hosted, and
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I do remember loving it, but the memories are because it's been years. Like Charlie's Angels, Bionic Woman, Wonder Woman. I've seen over and over hundreds of times.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your favorite Charlie's Angels episode?
Oh wow. Oof, God, that's hard. I really Jacqueline being addicted to drugs, Kelly
Garrett.
Kelly Garrett.
Our books were both dark. I mean, there was something. Mine is Angels in Chains. When they were all...
the first season's phenomenal, just having Farrah, but I think Cheryl was an amazing replacement.
Love Cheryl. I got to plug in my computer. Hold on one second.
Oh yeah, please do.
It is right here. I thought it was plugged in. Things happen.
Shelley, but what a class act, Jacqueline. She signed a contract, stayed for the duration of it, and still speaks so highly of it.
Oh, and totally. And one of my heartaches. I was very lucky. I got to go to the sets of the Dynasty reunion that they did up north at the Carrington Mansion, catfights and caviar, and I was at South Fork for a big Dallas reunion that Victoria Principal even was part of, and I was at the cul-de-sac for Knott's Landing reunion. And the producer of these,
pinch myself for those. That's pretty amazing to be at those places.
I mean, it was amazing. I'm looking at a picture here at South Fork of me with all the Ewings, and over here with all the Carringtons. They're all in the book. All these.
Yeah, I saw them.
Reunion photos in the book. But anyway, I was saying one of the sad things was the producer of these specials. It was a man named Michael Levitt, who I saw last night at my book signing, and Henry Winkler. The one they really wanted to do next was Charlie's Angels, and they couldn't work out a deal with Kate, and the truth there is that Jacqueline really felt that it should be Cheryl as well, but for whatever reason, Kate wanted it to be the three originals: Farrah, Kate, and Jacqueline. And then sadly, not long after that, Farrah was gone, and Jacqueline said, we really should have done that. We should have found a way.
It's really a shame that Kate has been so, off the radar.
But she's reemerging. I just saw her a few weeks ago. They have these Hollywood shows, these autograph shows every 3 months. I moderate panels there. I did one with Dallas.
Came out?
She was there for that. She came. She had a mask on. So I think she's taking baby steps out into the world. But she also popped up at a Scarecrow and Mrs. King event late last year. So
She was at Jacqueline's son's wedding recently, which the pictures of them together.
Wedding, that picture was incredible. But they've announced that next year at the Hollywood show, they're going to have a reunion, not of Charlie's Angels. Maybe it'll happen, but it's going to be with Bruce Boxleitner and Kate Jackson.
That was a good show too. I enjoyed Scarecrow and Mrs. King.
Yeah,
I did get very blessed to work with Farrah on a movie that she did for Disney. She did Man of the House with Chevy Chase. And so when she came to New York, I had to go pick her up at the airport in the limo and take her on her PR tour. I mean, it was pretty, that was a pinch me for me, you know, pinch me moment.
My God, what was she like?
She was a sweetheart. A sweetheart. My best friend, my best man in my wedding, who I've been friends with, we were roommates for 2 years, and it was during that time. And she and I took a limo from New York City she was doing a interview show in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So my roommate, so I didn't have to go back to the city and come back to Jersey. He came to pick me up. And she got out of the car to hug him, and, you know, didn't have to do that. Didn't have to stay and wait with me. She was really, really sweet. Really, really sweet.
You were professional, so I'm sure you didn't get a photo. And this is probably before we.
I did get a photo. I do have a photo in her hotel room when we were doing makeup or something. I do, and I actually had met her a couple years earlier when I was, I think, a page at ABC. She was shooting something outside our air. We were on the Upper West Side. You know where ABC was in the city.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
So wait, I want to go back to Slingerland's, New York.
Yes.
Where did your obsession with Hollywood begin?
In Slingerland's, New York. Yes.
Was there something you were watching? Do you remember a particular moment that really hooked you into that world?
I mean, you know, I think I was just, I remember where I draw a correlation between these stars that I loved and their characters and their real life off-screen scandals and things like that. I remember I went to a convenience store and I was going to get I write in the book some baseball cards, but it was actually Charlie's Angels cards and Three's Company cards and those stickers with the gum, that hard piece of gum with the sugar on top. Yeah, you break your teeth on. And I was looking at some of the comic books, and I saw an Enquirer, and on the cover was Ethel Mertz, Lucy's bestie, Vivian Vance, and it said "The Brave Last Days of Vivian Vance," and I'm like, oh my God, Ethel is dying. I watch Ethel every day after school on the Lucy Show, and it just sort of jarred me that these fantasy family members that I worship were not going to be around forever. And so that's sort of, I think, it was wrapped up in my obsession with death, as we talked about.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I just had to pull this up. Don't laugh. I'm going to show it for 1 second.
No, yeah.
Can you see that? The Charlie's Angels cards.
Is your Farrah photo there?
No, these are all the Charlie's Angels cards.
Those are your cards. Yes. Amazing. Do you still have them?
I don't. I'm sure I do in the basement, but I scanned a lot of them so that I didn't lose them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I had the Bionic Woman set. And remember, when you turn them over, you could create a poster.
Oh,
yes. And there would always be like one hard one to get, because you can go on the internet then and order that missing card. You had to just go buy gum pack after gum pack.
I had all of them. I don't think I had Bionic Woman cards. I don't remember. I definitely had her doll.
Oh yeah, and the Oscar Goldman and the Lee Majors and the Lee Majors.
I think they had like body parts that came off, like, you know, the bionic.
I had the bionic Sasquatch, and the chest plate would pop off, and you could see his bionic parts. With the Steve Austin one, you could look through his eye, and it was kind of magnified, like his bionic eye. Yeah,
I ran like I was Lindsay Wagner all the time, and I would jump. Yeah, totally. total nerd.
She's great. I just got to do a Q&A panel with Lindsay Wagner just last month, and we talked about some of those jumping scenes. She's just awesome.
So you know, the fascination you said, seeing that story, but then you went out to Hollywood to be a screenwriter. Were you writing as a kid? Did you know you had the talent?
Yes. No, did I know I have a talent? I don't know. But yeah, I was.
Well, you felt confident you could write.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I hope so, because I have a book that's on Amazon now.
No, but back then, I'm talking
I better
then.
be able to write, or I'm a sham. I remember I was just so bad at math. I was just so horrible at science. I couldn't remember dates in social studies and history. I wasn't good at gym. The only thing that I was really kind of good at was storytelling, creating stories. And I remember writing a spoof of Dallas, and we entered it in some contest, and I won some prize. Yeah, that's one thing I threw out during the COVID exodus that I wish I'd kept. I'm like, keep or save, and I did toss that, which is a shame. You can't keep everything. But yeah, so I think there was nothing else I could do. I couldn't be a doctor or a lawyer. I wasn't smart enough, but Enquirer had me. They took me, and Soap Opera Digest took me, and USA Today.
Well, and you were a page, which truly my page job is really what changed the course of my life. Was that one of the first gigs you got out in California? Yes,
I was still at USC. So I transferred from a school back east to USC Film School. I got in there. I was one of 24 kids in this program. And
that's awesome.
In between, thank you. After classes on summer breaks, I was a CBS page first and an NBC page. But when I was a CBS page, I was at CBS TV City. So I was working for The Price is Right with Bob Barker, The Young and the Restless.
Young and the Restless was next door.
And the Beautiful, which was kind of a new show. I remember when I started Young and the Restless, Heather Tom had just joined the show as young Victoria. And there was some weird battle over Bold and the Beautiful off screen between Hunter Tylo and Kimberlyn Brown. They were at each other. They were friends, and they had to hire security guards. And it got really, really weird with them. Gosh, yeah, a lot of Eric Braeden stuff that I'm not going to bring up because I love him, but he scares the heck out of me, that guy.
I think Victor Newman scares the heck out of everybody.
Oh, the mustache. Yes, I quake in my boots. You know, and I'll say he came on to Home and Family, and I produced him, and he was wonderful. He was such a sweetheart. But yeah, he's scary.
That's funny. When I was a page, I did an internship at Regis and Kathy Lee, and they hired me right out of college. So that was my first real job. But Michael Zaslow,
yes,
I spoke to on the phone. I don't remember if I was trying to produce a soap segment, but it was the first time I think I spoke to Michael Zaslow, and I was scared because
the great Michael Zaslow. Well, you mentioned Kelly. When I was still at the East Coast College, Hobart College in upstate New York, Geneva, New York, I did a New York City program, and I got an internship at All My Children. And this was right when Kelly Ripa joined as Haley, and she had this black wig. You know, she was Adam's niece, I think, right? Adam Chandler's niece.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a Palmer. I don't know. I can't remember. They were all so amazing. But one of my jobs was
internships and page positions are just really. I feel very lucky that I had those opportunities.
So fortunate. And the best thing, Alan, was the writer's office was in a separate place from the production office where I worked in the cast shot. So I would have to go to the writer's office and then take the scripts down to Columbus Circle, down to the production office. And I mean, of course, this is we're talking 3 or 4 months in advance. And I just had to have a peek at some of the storylines, and I'm like, oh my God, Cliff and Angie are going to get together, and oh my God, Tad is a cad. So those were some of the best years of my life. And my last day, they let me be in a scene. I was in a scene with, I think, Paige Turco, with some high school scene.
Oh my God, I was friends with her decades ago.
Yeah.
She was on Friday Night.
She was such a great actress. I mean, she is a great actress. She's fantastic.
I haven't seen her in years, but she was a great actress.
I have one other soap story to tell. So Kelly, it was Regis and Kathy Lee. They would have these soap opera awards that they would host. I think it was part of their show, Live with Regis.
Yeah, it was for Soap Opera Update magazine.
Okay, great. I knew you would know that. You're a genius. Yeah. You're a genius. So the actress who played Tad's mother, Frickett, Mary Frickett, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, I think it's Mary Frickett.
Yeah. She couldn't go to the ceremony, so she gave me her ticket. And I ended up sitting in the front row next to Susan Lucci and Helmut, her husband. And I mean, Susan was on stage and I was talking to Helmut. He was, doesn't my wife look beautiful? Oh my God, she looks amazing. And then backstage, I was having a conversation with Jeannie Cooper, the legendary Jeannie Cooper, who played Catherine Chancellor on The Young and the Restless. And this was all actors. It was only actors in this room. And she thought I was an actor. And I said, I'm thinking about going out to New York. And she was so helpful. And then she found out that I was a page, and the things changed. things changed.
In New York.
Yeah.
We might have been at the same one, because I was definitely at that awards with Regis and Kathy Lee, and I have a picture with Jeannie Cooper at that awards.
Oh, well, maybe you do then. Yeah.
So we might have been. It would have been, what year were you there?
89.
It could have been.
It could have been. And then I ended up going to LA and working at Young and the Restless. And one of my best memories is when Jeannie Cooper would come in the morning without her wig and just a skull cap on and looking like very much like Kojak, like Telly Savalas. But what a genius.
That's a talented woman.
Oh, man, she was it. She was it for me.
You mentioned earlier, and I was going to ask about, after your page role, you ended up working for Aaron Spelling.
I did.
I mean, as somebody who loves TV as much as you do, what was that like to, just be in the space with Aaron Spelling?
I still can't believe that happened. So Dynasty was canceled in 89. It ended with this cliffhanger. Blake had been shot. Crystal was still in some sanitarium, and Joan Collins, Lexus and Dex had fallen over the banister at the Carlton Hotel. And that's how it ended. Oh my gosh. And then it was canceled, and we never knew what was going to happen. So I read in Variety. I was in college at USC. I read in Variety that they were doing a 4-hour wrap-up miniseries. And so I called Aaron Spelling Productions. I mean, I was a college kid, no experience. And they gave me the name of the person who was hiring, Doris Braden, God rest her soul. I love her. And she called me, and I was the first person actually to pick up the phone instead of getting an answering machine. And she hired me on the spot. And so all of a sudden, 2 years after Dynasty ended, I'm on the phone with John Forsythe trying to help him figure out his new fax machine that had just been invented. And I'm scheduling physicals with Emma Sams. And she's like, who's performing the physical? I said, oh, it's Dr. So-and-so. Oh, God, him again. Oh, he was ancient when we were filming Dynasty. He's so gross. And I mean, they were all incredible. Linda Evans, God, I love her. She wrote something nice for my book in the front of my book. There's a whole chapter on Joan Collins. I mean, that's like one of my favorite chapters. So that was an absolute dream come true. I couldn't believe I was part of that.
I mean, those are iconic. I mean, that was must-see TV before must-see TV.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, I can still name. I mean, let's see. Monday was Little House on the Prairie, I think. Tuesday was ABC. That was Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Three's Company, Too Close for Comfort, Heart to Heart. Wednesday was Dynasty Night for me. Thursday was Knots Landing, but then it became like must-see TV with Cosby Show, Family Ties. LA Law was part of that, and Cheers and Night Court. Friday was, oh man, I was home on Friday nights watching Dallas and Falcon Crest, and I watched Dukes of Hazzard sometimes too. Saturday, I would babysit, watch Love Boat Fantasy Island. Sunday was Norman Lear. That was still All in the Family, and
so much of
Alice.
Yeah, you're making
time.
Yeah. Me too. I mean, I watch a lot of TV now, but I did watch a lot back then. And at Disney, I had another great opportunity to work with Penny Marshall, which was really quite incredible.
Yeah.
She had directed Renaissance Man, and I got to take her around, and we went back home to the Bronx to do some press where she was born.
Yeah.
That was a legend.
She was horrible. I mean, she was. I adore Cindy Williams. She was the sweetest thing in the world. Quickly, I was in Vegas. I got to interview Kim Cattrall for Sex and the City 2. and I was going to stay. The hotel said you can stay for a couple of days, but an offer came in to interview Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams together for the TV Land Awards. And I flew out back to LA, and I waited forever until they were free. And Penny just ignored me. And Cindy was like, "I'm so sorry. I'll try to get her to talk to you." And finally, I went up to Penny. I said, "Penny, I so wanted to meet you. I just flew in from Vegas. I don't care." So she was a tough one, but I did get to go. They had a lovely tribute to her at the Gary Marshall Theater, and Cindy was there, and Lenny and Swiggy were there, and they screened all of these amazing, all of Penny's favorite Laverne and Shirley episodes. So I love her on screen. I'll think of Laverne.
There's a lot of tough ones. They just don't know how to be around people. Some of them.
Maybe that's it. You know, I mean, God bless Penny. I remember I would see her at some charity shows, and she would grab 4 gift bags and get on the escalator and try to get them up to her car. I mean, the one and only Penny Marshall.
But
you know, sometimes you don't. Yeah.
Every rich person does that.
Oh, right.
They could buy those bags 10 times over.
Oh, totally. Because I remember free. Oprah said, "I love free stuff. It's all about those gift bags." Like Oprah really needs, some Evian water and some conditioner and, a coupon for a massage, right, at the Hilton.
Totally. You speak so highly of Jerry from National Enquirer. Who are some of the other mentors who have helped guide you along the way?
I thank every one of them in the book. I start with Doris Braden, who I just referenced, who hired me for Dynasty. I thank a wonderful man, Alan Carter, who's kind of a soap opera legend.
Alan Carter.
LA Bureau Chief of Soap Opera Digest for many years. He was at my signing last night. I love him. Then I thank everybody all the way up to Frank Valentini, who was so kind to have me on General Hospital last year. I had a 2-day gig as Morgan Fairchild's crony on this fictional TV show called Home and Heart. And that was a dream. I got a whole bunch of new GH fans who I can talk the book about. But yeah, I mean, just so many people who gave me these opportunities to meet these people I've adored all my life.
It's incredible. Frank works his tail off on that show. He is.
Oh man, he cares about those people. Yeah. And the things that show has been through with so many deaths with Jackie and Tyler, and I mean, just, it goes on, and it just, you can see how that was
a bad period of time. I hope that's over for a long time.
It is. Lucky's coming back to General Hospital. I'm so lucky. Spencer's coming back to Port Charles.
I mean, that's pretty big news, right? In the entertainment.
Oh I did his first interview when I was at Soap Opera Digest, when he had just joined General Hospital as Luke and Laura's son. And he was wonderful. I mean, he was a kid. And I remember he had a cross on, and he talked about his love of Jesus. And I'm like, this kid knows who he is. He is grounded, incredible actor. I'm not surprised he's had the incredible success that he has. And I'm so glad he's coming back to Port Charles. I love Jeannie Francis to death. And to get to see Jeannie and Jonathan Jackson back together is a General Hospital fan's dream.
I really, I grew up on the CBS shows, so I never watched GH. And I've had friends on GH now for years. But after Jackie's passing, I was blessed to sit down with her like a year before she passed. And I loved her she's from New Jersey, like I am, loved her. And I just wanted to see what they did. And I've continued to tune in. I've really enjoyed what they're doing. But I never watched him in his first incarnation, but I was a big fan of his on Nashville. So I'm excited to see.
With Connie Britton, right? And Hayden.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you still watch as much TV as you did?
Alan, I mean, the days of escapist I Dream of Jeannie and Gilligan's Island and Bewitched and Charlie's Angels, where no one really ever got shot. I mean, maybe you never saw blood.
Kelly did twice, I think.
In the head once, right?
Head once from the autistic young man. Yes. That I love that episode, even though she got shot, but I love it because she was the focus. And she got shot in the final episode.
Wow.
That was how they ended, with sort of flashbacks of,
all the years.
Hopefully she would survive,
Oh, she was left. It was left unresolved.
No. She did.
Oh, okay. Thank God. Oh my God. I'm
during during the final episode. Yeah.
Okay, thank God. I was like, oh no, we've got to find a way to get
her and Bosley showed up at some, I don't know if it was like a domestic abuser, somebody's house, gets out of the car at the opening of the show, and she's shot.
Wow. Yeah, no, I was not good with unresolved endings. I had a very hard time with Victoria Principal leaving Dallas. I mean, there's a whole chapter in there about my obsession over Pam and Bobby and how I really kind of stalked Victoria. Oh my God, yes. No, I mean, I did some things to Victoria I'm not proud of, and I wish I could have just had a dream season and make them all go away. But I will say, I wrote the book. I reached out to her rep. I received a call from Victoria. We talked for an hour off the record. I can't reveal anything about it, but it was very healing, I think, for both of us. I adore that lady. But I was so mad that she and Bobby never got back together. I refused to believe that Pam was dead all those years. She said, no, Pam's dead. No, she was wrapped like a mummy. And no, that was the writer's idea. As far as I'm concerned, when that explosion happened, Pam died, and that's the way it was meant to be. No. I couldn't let it go. And I mean, then they finally nailed the coffin in the Dallas reboot. And
isn't it disturbing when we invest our time and shows today get canceled in the second season and there's no wrap up? It's that's why I like that Ray Donovan was able to come back and do a movie to wrap. But a lot of shows you invest so much of your time and then they pull the plug.
Yeah, I mean, I think three of the best wrap up movies, I mean, most esteemed Emmy worthy, were the Ray Donovan, The Monk, and then the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island, I think, has to be up there as well as one of the best reunion wrap-up movies of a TV cast. Yeah, no, I was very unsettled, and I never missed one of those reunions. The Return of the Beverly Hillbillies. I mean, the Brady girls get married was like the best night on television ever. And I think that's where my reunion thing came from, why I wanted to reunite so many of these casts over the years.
Wait, so I have to ask, does your partner love television as much as you?
Yes. So we have very similar tastes. We kind of have a thing where we like to not have any violence, sexual attacks, any of that in the house. So that limits 95% of TV now. But we loved Kristen Wiig and Carol Burnett's recent show, Palm Royale. Emily in Paris feels like an old Aaron Spelling kind of a show. Wow. We're struggling through, and just like that, we want it to be something that's it's not. But we're still sticking in there with that. The Crown did it for me. So yeah, we're very similar in our tastes.
I love that. I agree with you. And just like that, you want so much more, but you stick with it. Absolutely. Those are, I just like seeing the girls. To me, it's like I'm good, but I want more.
Yeah, I mean, how about that Kim Cattrall moments? I mean, I wish it had been kept a secret. It would have been just incredible. And man, we would have heard by now if she was coming back. I think we would know that. And
I agree. I agree. Interesting though, because Colleen Zink, who just did Young and the Restless, they were able to keep
terrorizing the Newmans.
Yeah, right. They were able to keep it a surprise. Like they had her sign an NDA. Like it was, because she was on World Turns for years. She was returning to daytime, and boom, there she was. We need, like, Cattrall should have been like that. Kept under wraps.
That wasn't announced on Soap Opera Digest?
No one knew until she walked in.
Well, I mean, that's great. I mean, some of the best soap moments were those surprises. I mean, Scotty Baldwin catching the bouquet at Luke and Laura's wedding. I mean, every time Sheila comes back every month from the dead.
Every Friday.
God, she's been dead for 2 weeks. I thought we'd never see her again.
Every Friday.
Yeah, I got in big trouble with Days of Our Lives with the Salem Strangler. I did a big story. It was for the LA Times on all those vets that were being killed off, and they thought they were really being killed off. I sat with Suzanne Rogers in her dressing room, and she was saying, I live with my mother, and I'm going to lose my home, and I don't know what to do. And the actor who played Mickey, her husband, had offered to die in her place. I'm ready to retire, and they said no. So I mean, these actors were.
There were like 10 people, weren't there?
Well, there were like 10. I mean, and mostly they were all like over 40 or 50 years old. which now doesn't sound that old, but at the time it sounded old. But yeah, no, I mean, Ken Corday did not like this ageism story this angle that I took. And I don't know. I mean, I've always wondered if that story in the LA Times maybe made them rethink things and then have them all come back from the dead, because that's what they did. They were all called back onto the set.
They were. Said,
welcome back to Salem. You're not dead after all. I wish life was like that.
That's a horrible way to sort of lose your job, you know, not knowing that there's the possibility of return.
But how great that secrets could be kept back then, you know, and how wonderful it was when these surprises did happen.
Oh my God, surprises were the best on any show when you were really blown away. You talked about coming out, and you said Judith Light. How long ago was that?
I waited a long while. I was a Catholic kid, an only child, and all the hopes of children, which gay men and women can definitely have children now. Wasn't so common when I was a kid. So I waited till I was 30 to come out. I met somebody that I fell for, and I wanted the world to know that I wasn't a monk living in a cave on the weekends. I actually did have a life. So yeah, I was 30 years old when I mentioned it to Judith. Maybe I was 29 with Judith Light and 30 with the rest of the Who's the Boss cast.
What would you say today to somebody who struggled like you? You know, do you have any regrets about how long you waited? Was it right for you? Do you?
Well, I mean, here's the truth. I mean, the non-funny answer is that, like we talked about, our role models were Billy Crystal on Soap, who was really kind of a caricature, who was, you know, didn't know what he wanted to be. He was dating women. He was dressing as a woman. I mean, it was changed by the week. He wanted to have a baby at one point, I think. So he was a joke character. Stephen Carrington, but that was it. So there weren't these role models like there were on Glee. Thank God for those characters. Kurt, my gosh, and Blaine, right? Was it Kurt and Blaine?
Yes.
Darren Chris's character's name?
But even more than Kurt and Blaine was Kurt's father.
Oh, that moment.
You know, because my dad never knew. You know, don't know what we don't think he would have taken it well, but probably would have come around. But you know,
I mean, hopefully he would have. I mean, certainly if he saw you now and saw that all you've accomplished and everything, he would absolutely give you a Kurt's dad hug. But this was also post, you know, Rock Hudson dying after his stint on Dynasty, and then all the horrors that came from the AIDS plague after that. And that, if I had any possibility of coming out, that scared me right back into the closet. I didn't have the confidence. So I think that perhaps, you know, if I had come out earlier, I may have fallen victim to that plague. So I mean, I think my journey was right for me. But yeah, I mean, it's a different world now. And I would totally encourage people to find their allies. If it's not their parents, then they're out there. So find those people, make your own family or support system. If you can, don't waste your life like I did, living a lie. And then also living vicariously through these characters on these soaps. I do wish as much as I love these shows, I wish I'd turned the TV off a bit more and I'd gone out to have the soap opera stories of my own life. And that's what I'm trying to do now. And that's one of the lessons learned in the book. Don't spend your whole life living vicariously through your television characters.
That is a beautiful way to end. But I do really agree. You know, it's, I also think you probably, like me, worked, you know, my dad would say, do I, and part of it, I think, was my fear of saying I was gay, but like, do you think I'll ever see you married? And I would always say I'm married to my work, because I worked a lot. I was working for Disney in movies, going to movies every night of the week. So like, I didn't have, you know, partners early on. You know, I had a gay group of friends, but I was very much hiding that part of my life. But
I think
I'm sure you must have been working.
What's that?
You must have been working so much as well to fill that space.
You know, I was also, if I can, I spoke to Gordon Thompson, you know, recently. I did an interview with Gordon, Adam Carrington, and also has popped up in a lot of the daytime soaps. And he talked to me about how he was very publicly, I guess, outed. It wasn't you, was it? You didn't out him, did you? Okay, good. I'm like, oh my God. So that happened to me. I mean, after I came out to Judith, it was baby steps. And I went to Egypt for a few weeks. And while I was gone, I had a neighbor who was obsessed with me. And I think he was closeted. And he sent out letters pretending to be me to every resident in my apartment complex. And it was, hi, I'm William Keck, your gay neighbor. You may see me down by the pool in my black baseball cap, or watching all my children at 1 o'clock in my apartment. And here's my apartment number, and here's my phone number. I'd love to be your friend. I mean, just so weird. So I get back in the States. I check my answer machine messages. Hi, this is Susie from the C building. We got your message. Listen, we're a supporter of you. We don't necessarily, believe. I mean, it was so scary. So I talked about that stalker real life story in my Victoria Principal chapter where I was sort of stalking her. Yeah, it's scary. Have you ever been stalked?
No, but that's scary.
Yeah, no, you worry about your animals when you're gone. And yeah, it's that. There are times in my life when I really have felt that my life has been a soap opera. Like, how has this circumstance happened? How have I ended up in the situation? And this actually feels like a soap opera. I mean, getting to spend time with you and being asked.
This has been so much fun. I mean, just reliving our childhood right now.
Oh yeah, it's so. I feel like I want to just trade Charlie's Angels cards with you, and get our Viewmasters out, and look at images.
Give you my bubble gum.
Yes, yeah, right. You can have the bubble gum. I'll take the stickers. Okay, how about that?
That's amazing. Congratulations on the book. It's such a pleasure to spend time with you.
Alan, I knew it was going to be, but I didn't know it was going to be this fun. I do feel like I have a new bestie, and I really hope we can continue from coast to coast, finding a way to stay in touch. You're a blast.
Same here. Best of luck with the release tomorrow.
Thank you. I'll be watching future editions of The Locker Room. Can't wait to see who you have on.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to William Keck for spending the hour and sharing his incredible life story and memories with all of us. Please remember to pick up a copy of his book, When You Step Upon a Star. Cringeworthy Confessions of a Tabloid Bad Boy is available tomorrow. And the link to his website is down below right here on YouTube. Please join us this Friday, July 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern, when the creator of The Bionic Woman, The Incredible Hulk, the V miniseries, writer, director, and producer Kenneth Johnson will stop by to look back at his incredible career. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And if you like to stream audio versions, you can stream The Locker Room by searching The Locker Room on your favorite podcast app. Have a great afternoon. Be safe as always, and I'll see you on Friday.